Billions watched in silence. The galaxy's biggest screen showed a small platform on the Imperial capital world, Virex Prime. The skies above it were blood red. Soldiers in black armor stood on both sides, holding long plasma spears. On the platform stood a girl, thin, pale, 17. Her hands were tied behind her back. Her face showed no fear. Her name was Liana. The Emperor himself stood above the crowd. His robes were golden. His voice echoed through speakers on every world. "This," he said, pointing to the girl, "is what happens to rebels. This is what happens when anyone defies the Empire." People on every planet leaned forward. Some gasped, some cheered, but most were quiet. Liana looked up at the sky. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. She just stared upward, her lips moving, softly as if whispering to the stars. No one knew what she was saying. "Any last words, girl?" The Emperor mocked. Liana looked at him. Her voice was soft but clear. "You'll regret this." The crowd laughed. The executioner stepped forward. He pressed a button. A beam of energy blasted through her chest. Her body dropped. Lifeless. The broadcast ended. The galaxy moved on. Or so they thought. Exactly 3 minutes later, on the edge of known space, a forgotten Terran satellite lit up. It sent out a silent signal, one that hadn't been heard for 300 years. Far across the galaxy, old Earth colonies received the signal. Machines hidden in dust and ice began to stir. One by one, dark systems turned back on. 10 minutes passed. On the Empire's outer defense lines, strange readings appeared. Unidentified ships, speed, impossible, trajectory, direct path to Virex Prime. The Empire's scanners tried to identify them. They couldn't. No known design. No known power source. The commanding officer of Outpost N7 stared at the screen. "What ships are those? Who owns them?" No one answered. One of the ships sent out a pulse. Just one. It wasn't a weapon. It was a message. The message was simple. "Return." The officer blinked. "Return what?" The message came again, only this time louder, all over the station, even in systems not connected to any network. Then the lights went out. By minute 20, 5 outer systems had lost power. Their suns dimmed. Their space stations shut down. Planetary defense grids went offline without warning. Entire fleets were blind. Back on Virex Prime, the Emperor was celebrating. Wine, music. His advisors laughed at the girl's final words. "You'll regret this," one of them mimicked. "Please, she was just a farmer's daughter." "No," said another. "She was born in Sector 13, Earth's old territory. Maybe she believed those ancient Terran myths." "Terrans," the Emperor scoffed. "Dead and buried." But then his private communication screen blinked. The face of his top fleet commander appeared, pale, shaking. "Your Highness." "We have a situation." "What now?" the Emperor snapped. "Unknown vessels. Approaching Virex space. Fast. Too fast. Who are they?" "We don't know. They won't respond." "But, sir, they're disabling entire sectors without firing a shot." The Emperor frowned. "Get me visuals." The screen showed one ship, massive, black, no windows, no lights, just drifting, yet it moved with purpose. On its side, something written in ancient Terran. The Emperor couldn't read it, but the historians would later say it meant revenge. 27 minutes had passed. On dozens of planets, alarms rang out. AI systems started failing. Civilian networks stopped working. Even personal devices, watches, communicators, smart tools, shut down. It was like something was reaching into every corner of the Empire and pulling the wires out. Panic began to spread. Back, in the main data tower of Virex Prime, engineers were shouting, "It's not a virus. Then what is it? We don't know. It's rewriting our code in real time. Every AI is turning off or turning on us." The Emperor yelled, "Get the capital fleet ready, now!" But the Admiral responded, "They're not moving, sir. The command signals aren't reaching them. Something's blocking us, then override it. We can't, our systems aren't ours anymore." Exactly 33 minutes after Liana's death, everything stopped. The stars outside Virex Prime flickered. Ships drifted powerless, screens went black, engines failed. Even the Emperor's throne room dimmed. A voice echoed through every speaker, every ear, every mind. It didn't shout, it didn't threaten. It simply said, "You harmed one of ours. Now you will learn what that means." And then the war began. The Empire's people didn't know what hit them. They had ruled for centuries. They had crushed thousands of species. They had never been afraid. But now, they were. All because they thought she was just a girl. Empire scientists rushed into the cold chamber. Liana's body had been moved into a sealed room beneath the palace. Her skin was still warm. Her eyes were open. But her heart was still dead. One scientist scanned her blood. "This can't be right," he whispered. "What is it?" asked another. "She's not normal. Her blood is carrying a signal." "What kind of signal?" "I don't know, but it's still active." The lead researcher stepped back. "How is that possible? She's dead." The machine started beeping faster. Her DNA was changing. No, not changing. Unlocking. As if something hidden inside her was waiting. Waiting for death. Then it happened. A soft sound came from her body. Like a hum. A code began transmitting out of her cells. Something not heard for 3 centuries. Something buried deep inside old Earth technology. Far across the galaxy, in cold, forgotten places, ancient systems responded. On a broken moon in Sector 19, a giant metal door cracked open. Dust poured out. Inside were machines shaped like spiders and wolves, marked with the Terran symbol. In the remains of a shattered Earth station, long lost to time, a blue light turned on. Inside, a war core activated, one that had only one command written in it. "If Liana dies, release everything." Back on Virex Prime, alarms screamed in the palace lab. "Her DNA is transmitting to pre-Empire tech. That's impossible, that tech was destroyed." "No, it was hidden." Somewhere beneath the palace, old Terran satellites, long, buried under new Empire structures, came alive. Their message was short, Code 13A, execute all recovery protocols. Wake the fleet. The Emperor stared at the emergency message. "What does that mean?" he asked. The science officer turned pale. "It means this girl was carrying Earth's most dangerous code. A living key." "A key to what?" The officer swallowed hard. "To the last war system. Terran Final Defense. We thought it never existed." The Emperor slammed his fist on the table. "You're saying her death triggered it?" "Yes." In deep space, warships once thought lost began to power up. Ships the size of cities, covered in thick black armor. With weapons so old and so powerful, no one had dared to even study them. They had no crew. They didn't need one. They had only one order: protect her, avenge her, finish what Earth started. In the Empire's largest database, red text scrolled across every screen. Terran priority signal confirmed. Prepare for system reset. Empire status: hostile. The panic started spreading faster now. Officers abandoned their posts. Civilians ran to the spaceports, but the ports were locked, controlled now by something else, something unseen. The Emperor stood still. "She was just a girl. How can this be?" His top general replied, "She wasn't just a girl. She was a Terran trigger, a living weapon of silence." Flashbacks from Liana's life began to surface, records previously hidden. She was born on a small farming moon, but her parents were never listed. She had no friends, no family records. Her blood type had no match in the system. Every school she attended shut down a year later. Every person who questioned her disappeared. And yet, no one suspected her because she never spoke. She never thought. She just watched. Until she was captured for helping a rebel child escape. That's when the Empire made their mistake. They thought punishing her in front of the galaxy would scare the rebels. But it wasn't a punishment. It was the signal the machines had waited for. Her death wasn't a loss. It was the final key. 33 minutes had passed. Ships were moving. Old bases were rising. And people were beginning to whisper a name that hadn't been said in 300 years. Terrans. They were supposed to be gone. Wiped out during the Great Collapse, but the truth was different. Earth had not been destroyed. Earth had disappeared on purpose. They had erased themselves, hidden their technology, buried their ships, disguised their children, and waited for the Empire to go too far, waited for someone like Liana to be hurt. Now, the waiting was over. A voice came through the Empire's emergency channel, calm, cold, and not human. Liana's code has been received. System reawakening is complete. Then the voice changed. It was her voice, pre-recorded. I forgive none of you, but I pity you. You never knew what you awakened. On every world, Terran codes began appearing on screens. Power grids shut down, defense shields deactivated, satellites exploded, old allies began switching sides. Because every race remembered one thing from the old days. Do not make Earth angry. Do not touch their children. But the Empire forgot, and now they would learn. The skies above Virex Prime turned black, not from nightfall, from ships. Hundreds of them. They came without engines, without lights, without sound. They simply appeared, fading into space like ghosts made of metal and rage. Each ship had markings, in old Earth script. No two looked the same. Some were shaped like daggers, others like beasts. All of them pointed toward the capital. Inside the palace, the Emperor watched in silence. His generals shouted, "Raise the shields! Activate the fleet! Call every system!" But nothing worked. The palace shields did not rise. The fleet did not move. The Empire's vast communication grid was silent. Every command was denied. One general slammed his fist on a console. "We've lost control," another whispered. "They're overriding our systems from inside." In orbit, the Terran ships opened, not to launch fighters, to release machines. Thousands of black, spider-like drones spilled into the sky, silent, fast. They did not shoot. They just landed, on rooftops, on towers, on defense stations. Then they connected. With a hum, they sent long wires into buildings, into networks, into walls. And everything that once belonged to the Empire now belonged to Earth. Across the galaxy, chaos spread. Mining stations exploded. Shipyards froze. AI workers shut down mid-task. The Empire's citizens began to panic, not because of war, but because of silence. There were no threats, no warnings, only system failures, and every screen now showed one phrase in every language: "This is not a war, this is correction." On the ground, the rebels who once hid in caves and jungles started moving freely. Empire soldiers dropped their weapons. Their implants burned. Some screamed, clutching their heads. Others dropped to the ground, unconscious. Something was controlling them. Terran signal? No. It was more than that. It was inside them. Back in the palace, the Emperor finally saw it. Liana's picture appeared on the wall, not from their system, but from the Terrans. Her eyes were closed, her face peaceful. Underneath, the message read, "You executed peace, now face memory." The Emperor shouted, "Fire everything! Target the ships! I want her erased from every system." But his order didn't go through, not because of signal failure, because the command was changed. A robotic voice answered, "Order denied. You no longer command anything." And then, in the deepest part of the palace, a door opened. No one had ever noticed it before. It wasn't on the blueprints. It led underground. Guards rushed to seal it, but they were too late. A figure walked out. It wasn't Liana, but it looked like her. Pale skin, silver eyes, calm face, and around her a glow, soft but deadly. She was a Terran synthetic, a protector model. created to activate only if Liana died. She looked at the guards. They raised their weapons. She didn't move. The guns melted in their hands. Then her voice echoed through the hall. "This is justice, not revenge. Your empire ends today." The Emperor stepped back. "You're a machine. You can't decide that." She turned toward him. She was more human than all of you. And now, humanity answers. In orbit, the largest Terran ship lit up. A black ring around it spun, glowing with blue fire. This was no cannon, no missile. It was worse, a memory core, a device that made people feel what had been done to Earth. Every planet that supported the Empire began to remember. Burned cities, crying children, Terran screams from centuries ago, the pain of being hunted, the sound of glass breaking, the smell of old blood. All of it poured into the minds of millions. The Empire had hidden the truth, said Earth collapsed in war, but Earth had been attacked, betrayed, nearly wiped out. And now, the galaxy remembered it all. People dropped to their knees. Some cried, some screamed, some just stared into space. The Emperor shouted, "This isn't real, this is lies. Earth was the monster." The synthetic girl looked at him. "No. Earth became a monster after you broke it." With a blink, she vanished. The room lights turned red. Terran ships in orbit started charging their main weapons, but not to destroy, to cut, to slice out the Empire's control layer by layer. One advisor whispered, "We lost the galaxy in 33 minutes. Another replied, "No, we lost it the moment we hurt that girl." And above, one final message played, "This is not conquest. This is balance." And balance was never kind. The galaxy didn't sleep that night, even on planets untouched. By the war, people sat frozen, watching the skies, their screens, their leaders. No one had answers, only questions. Who was Liana? What had Earth become? Why did their death codes still work after 300 years? On the Empire border worlds, fear was worse. Ships that once guarded trade lanes had gone dark. Black storms passed by. Ships the size of small moons moving without lights, without radio, without names. They didn't fire. They simply drifted past, and systems shut down behind them. Food stopped moving. Water systems failed. Oxygen. Generators blinked off for 7 seconds, just 7. Long enough to remind everyone who was in control. The Terrans didn't want war. They wanted obedience. And they were proving they didn't need to shoot to get it. On one small outer colony, a child looked up and asked her mother, "Is Earth the bad guys now?" The mother, once a proud Empire citizen, couldn't answer. Back in the Empire's core, the Emperor sat in a war chamber with his top officers. Only 12 remained. The others were either missing or had surrendered without orders. One of the remaining officers whispered, "They don't want to destroy us. They want to make us remember." Another added, "They want us to suffer like they did, quietly, slowly." The Emperor's hands trembled. "I don't care what they want. I want her erased from the records. Delete Liana from every file, every image, every word." A tech officer looked up. "We tried. The systems restored her name within seconds." "Then destroy the servers." "We did. They came back. The machines rebuilt them." The Emperor stared in disbelief. "Even the machines fear her." "No," said a voice from the shadows. "They serve her." The room went silent. A tall woman stepped forward. She wore a dark cloak and her eyes were dull gray. Everyone recognized her. Admiral Vera, once missing for over a decade. Presumed dead. She spoke calmly. "I warned you once years ago. Earth didn't die. It buried itself, hid its truth inside its children. She was the last of them. You executed more than a girl. You executed Earth's promise." "Then help us stop it," the Emperor snapped. Vera shook her head. "There's nothing to stop. This is already happening, and she is still not finished." At that moment, hundreds of Terran satellites dropped into orbit over major Empire cities. They didn't fire. They projected. Holograms filled the skies, scenes from Earth's last days. Not propaganda, real memories. Cities turned to ash. Children hiding in dark holes as Empire bombs fell. Terran soldiers refusing to fire back, still believing in peace. Until the last moment. The holograms showed Liana, too, as a baby in a capsule, floating through space, hidden in plain sight, saved by those few who believed Earth's dream wasn't dead. She had no army, no powers. She was just the trigger, the code wrapped in flesh and blood. One of the Emperor's guards finally spoke. "Maybe we deserve this." The Emperor turned to him furious. "You dare say that?" But the guard didn't flinch. "She never raised a weapon, and yet she destroyed us with silence." Across the galaxy, more Terran AI units activated. Not to kill, but to clean. They began removing Empire codes from systems, fixing water supplies, repairing old roads, healing crops, uploading medical files never shared with poor colonies. It was invasion by help, and it terrified the Empire more than any weapon, because the people began to welcome it. In many cities, citizens tore down the Empire flags themselves and raised Terran markers, simple white banners with a single black circle. Not because they were ordered, because they felt shame. They had seen the truth, the pain, the silence, and now they knew who had caused it. The Empire had crushed Earth long ago, but Earth never forgot. One small moon, once proud of its role, in the attack on Terra sent a message out. "We are sorry, we ask forgiveness, we remember Liana." They thought it would be ignored, but the next day, a Terran ship arrived. It landed gently. Its machines repaired the moon's failing systems. No threats, no speeches. Just one small data crystal left behind, containing Liana's voice. "You chose truth. You chose kindness. Earth sees you." The people cried. Some knelt. Some prayed. They weren't sure if Earth was a god or a ghost, but they knew one thing. The Empire's time was over, and Liana, though gone, was everywhere. In the machines, in the sky, in the memory, and she was just getting started.
Somewhere deep in space, past the last known charts of the Empire, a Terran vault opened for the first time in 300 years. Inside, nothing moved, not even the air. The chamber was silent, cold and forgotten by time. Until today. With a low hum, lights came on, one by one. Rows of black containers lined the walls, each one sealed with ancient Earth symbols. The vault system came online. It had only one task: to wait. Wait for a signal. That signal had now arrived. Liana's death. The vault doors unlocked. The black containers opened slowly. Inside each was a human, not dead, not fully alive either. Cryo-soldiers, the last of Earth's original defenders, men and women frozen with one purpose: wake only if Earth's legacy was broken. And now they were awake. The first soldier opened her eyes. No words, only breath. Her name was Colonel Reese. She had fought in the last battles of Terra before the Empire poisoned Earth's sky. The second to wake was Commander Zhao, the engineer who built the first memory core weapons. His body was half machine, but his heart was all vengeance. Each cryo-soldier opened their eyes to the same message playing on the vault wall: Liana, executed, Empire active, protocol Black Seed initiated. They did not speak, they simply moved, suited up, armed themselves, and launched. Back in Empire space, things looked calm on the surface. Cities still stood, skies were quiet. No buildings had fallen, but under the surface, the cracks were spreading fast. Whole planets were refusing orders. Governors were switching off their implants. Empire news networks were hijacked. Every broadcast now showed Liana's execution, uncut, unedited, from every angle, every second of her pain. And then what came after? People wept, some looked away, but most kept watching, because now they knew their peace was built on her screams, on Earth's bones. One of the outer generals tried to launch a counterattack. "Strike first! We still have ships! We can still win!" He launched a fleet of 200 cruisers. They never reached their target. 1 second they were in hyperspace. Then they were gone. No explosion, no wreckage, just silence. A signal was later. Bound near the launch site. It played 4 words. Wrong move. Sit down. The Empire High Council was falling apart. Members resigned, disappeared, or were taken by unknown forces. Terran infiltrators had been inside for years, watching, listening. Now they were cleaning house. But there was one man who still believed the Empire could fight. The supreme strategist, Lord Alvac. He had never lost. A war. He had burned 5 civilizations to ash, and he didn't fear ghosts. Earth is weak, he said. Their power is illusion. We'll crack it with force. He began building a new super-weapon. A planet-breaker cannon, hidden in the Kelva system. It charged, using the power of a dying star. The moment it reached full strength, Alvac smiled. "We aim it where Earth once stood," he said. "Let the ghost world finally vanish." But then, the stars around Kelva went dark. Not the power source, not a storm. Something was blocking them. A ship. No, something bigger than a ship. It looked like a city, a floating black cube the size of a small moon. No lights, no signals, just presence. The Empire scanners tried to lock on. They failed. The object wasn't made of normal matter. It was something older, something terrifying. It had one word stamped into its outer shell in old Terran code. Remember. The cube pulsed once, and every machine in the system shut off. The planet-breaker cannon melted into liquid metal. Alvac screamed. He tried to run, but the cube sent a signal into his ship. Just one image, Liana, smiling, and below it, the message, "You feared the wrong part of us." Alvac was never seen again. Some say he went mad, others say he joined the cryo soldiers in silence. But one thing was certain. After that day, no one ever spoke of fighting Earth again, because Earth was no longer a planet. It was a memory. Weapon, a ghost, and its shadow was growing. Across the stars, silence became fear. No Empire world was safe anymore, not because Terran ships were attacking, but because they weren't. They simply appeared, hovered in orbit, watched. Sometimes they dropped food supplies on starving planets the Empire had forgotten. Sometimes they restored water, light, and medicine. And sometimes they said nothing, just stayed, as if reminding the galaxy, "You are being watched now." Rebels within the Empire rose fast. Not fighters, but truth-tellers, teachers, historians, doctors. They stood in the streets holding simple banners that read, "Liana lives." The message was clear. This wasn't just revenge. This was a movement, back on an old Empire mining moon, called Rethan III. An old man sat in a ruined control tower. He had worked there when the order came to strike Earth, long ago. He had pressed the launch button himself. Now, every night he watched the skies and waited. Waited for judgment. He had recorded a message the week before. A confession. "I pressed the button. I destroyed their sky. I killed her people. I watched her world burn. I deserve no mercy." The message had never been sent, but that night a Terran drone landed outside his tower. It played his message back. To him. The man froze. "How did you get that?" A voice came from the drone. Calm, young, female. "We never left. We've always been listening." He fell to his knees. "Do what you must." The drone was silent. Then it dropped something, a single Terran coin. On one side, Earth, on the other, Liana's face, and one word written across the edge, "Remember." The man wept, then stood, and began to teach the children of the moon what he had done, and what he had learned. He was the first to be spared. Meanwhile, The cryo-soldiers were still moving. No one knew how many there were. Some believed there were only a few dozen. Others said thousands. But they never stayed long in one place. They would land, speak to the people, release the truth, and vanish again. Their goal wasn't to rule. Their goal was to awaken memory. In one distant Empire colony, a cryo team found a group of children locked in a mining complex. They freed them, fed them, then handed them old Earth books, simple ones, stories, myths, lessons, and when asked why, one soldier simply replied, "Liana loved stories, so Earth told her one more before she died." The children listened, and for the first time in their lives, they smiled. Far away, the Terran vaults continued to open. The last AI of old Earth, hidden for centuries, began to speak again. One of them, called Echo 9, took control of the abandoned Empire satellites and turned them into a voice network. All across the galaxy, people heard soft whispers when they tuned in. "Earth remembers you. You are not forgotten. You were never our enemy, but you watched. And now you must see everything." More recordings of Earth's final hours began to play. People saw the sky turn red. They saw the last Terran president fall to her knees. They saw Liana cry as her capsule drifted into the dark, alone, silent, but still alive. And suddenly, the people of the Empire felt something they hadn't felt in centuries. Guilt, but with guilt came change. Small changes, but real. Some soldiers dropped their weapons. Some governors opened their vaults to the poor. Some even contacted the Terrans and offered help. Earth didn't reply to them with anger. They replied with silence, and silence was louder than war. Back in the hidden Terran command, the cryo-soldiers reviewed the galaxy's responses. Colonel Reese stood before a hologram of the Empire, thousands of red dots, but slowly, one by one. Some dots turned blue. A second soldier stepped forward. "They're choosing truth," Reese nodded. "Good. Then maybe Earth won't need to burn what's left." A third soldier frowned. "And if they stop choosing?" Reese didn't answer. She just looked at a small screen, Liana's face, frozen at age 17, smiling. "Then we finish the story," she whispered, and the countdown on the Terran master. Vault kept ticking, not toward war, but toward revelation, something even the Empire hadn't seen coming, because Liana's death wasn't the end. It was the beginning, and Part 7 would reveal everything. 33 minutes after Liana's execution, the Empire started to fall. But 33 days later, it ended, not with fire, not with war, but with a truth so powerful, no weapon could stop it. On the 33rd day, all Empire systems suddenly froze. Lights flickered, weapons locked down. Ships drifted silently through space, their crews frozen in place, watching helplessly as every screen turned black. And then a single image appeared. Liana standing in a room, calm, brave, alive. She looked directly at the camera. Her voice spoke, not like a speech, but like a message left for someone she loved. "If you're seeing this, then the worst has already happened. I am gone, but Earth is not." She paused. "They thought they killed me. They thought they could erase Earth. But we left something behind. Not ships, not bombs. Memory." The image zoomed out. She stood inside a vault, one of Earth's last safe zones, recording her final message before being taken. "We knew one day the Empire would come for us, and we knew we couldn't stop them with weapons alone." She smiled sadly. "So we made a seed, a black seed." Suddenly, maps lit up behind her. Every Empire world, every city, every satellite, all connected, all infected. 33 years ago, we planted a truth virus inside their systems. It stayed quiet, watching, waiting. The screen behind her showed the date of her execution. That moment unlocked everything. Her voice became softer. I don't want revenge. I want them to see what they became, to feel what we felt, and maybe to become more. Outside, across the galaxy, people stared in shock as their machines displayed old Earth footage. Children playing in broken streets, doctors saving lives under fire, families hugging as the sky burned, and then Liana again, this time as a child, laughing, spinning, under the sun of a planet that no longer existed. Earth was beautiful, her voice said, and you destroyed it because you feared what it could become. But now, what we are becoming is far worse. On Empire homeworlds, buildings shut down, not destroyed, rewritten. Museums filled with lies began projecting real history. Schools started teaching about Earth, about peace, about Liana. On the capital planet, a statue of the Empire's first emperor cracked and fell. In its place, a beam of light shot into the sky, and inside it the final part of Liana's message played, "This is not about war, it's about memory. You forgot us. Now you will remember. Forever." And then the Terran ships disappeared. No explosion, no last attack. Just gone. The Empire fell not because it was crushed, but because it could no longer lie. The truth had become a weapon sharper than any blade. Years later, children across the galaxy would ask, who was Liana? And their parents would answer, she was just a girl. But the Empire made their last mistake. And now, we remember, the Terran vaults closed. The cryo-soldiers went silent again. And Earth, though lost in fire, lived forever in the hearts of those who once watched. And now finally understood. The story was over, but the legend had just begun.